After her sensational arrival on the art scene at the Venice Biennale in 2005, Joana Vasconcelos was the first female artist invited to present her work at the Château de Versailles in 2012. Her bombastic, fantastical installations have since flourished in galleries, museums and public spaces. Her latest, The Tree of Life, and its 100,000 hand-woven leaves, has taken root here in the chapel in the grounds of the Château de Vincennes. Joana Vasconcelos, hello. Now, Tree of Life, like many of your pieces, is site-specific in dialogue with the Château de Vincennes, the chapel, its grounds. And I believe there's an important woman who's linked to the history here as well. Can you tell us about how she inspired you?
Well, there are two women in this project. Catarina de Médicis was an amazing woman in her time that understood that connections were very important, dialogues, and art was very important to make the world a better place. And the result of her politics is that she finished this building, and she intervened a lot in the art world. And so in respect to her, I think this piece pays an homage to that dimension that she had, and to see that everything is interconnected and you can value things by putting them all together. We have the myth of Daphne. It all started in Villa Borghese when I thought of doing the tree that Daphne has become into. And then that project never happened. And during COVID and confinement, I sent my teams home, and I said, and everybody was like, well, what shall we do? We don't have anything to do at home. And I said, well, let's start embroidering some leaves.
The mythological story of Daphne, the nymph who was transformed into a tree, was captured by Bernini in the early 17th century in that masterful sculpture. 300 years later, how do you see the elements of that story, some of the big ideas in that story, in dialogue with your work?
I think the myth of Daphne has an important aspect, which is she decided for her own life and her own destiny. She didn't want to be a victim of, the historical situation, and she decides that she'd rather be a tree than to be married with somebody that she didn't love. And I think that's, very contemporary in the aspect that women can decide for themselves what they want, like Catarina de Médicis.
Many of your pieces reference powerful women who've influenced the course of history. And I do think of the Valkyrie Simone, which you installed in the Bon Marché department store a few years back, a nod to all the famous Simones of French history.
Yes.
You recently worked with Maria Grazia Chiuri of the Dior fashion house on a runway show. Tell us a bit more about that process and the Valkyries that you created.
The Valkyries are, again, they pay an homage to an important woman in history, and the Valkyries themselves, being Norwegian tradition, they are flying goddesses and have the power to bring back alive brave warriors. And these warriors that were dead in the battlefield, they are brought again to life by them, and they have to work for the gods in Valhalla. So this figure of female goddesses and warriors at the same time are in a way all these women that we are talking about, the Simones, Miss Dior, with the Dior project, or even here, Catarina de Médicis. They are women that in their own time, in their own period, they played an important role and they defined history. So without them, history wouldn't be the same. And so being able to be free, being able to express myself as I want, I always think about all the others that couldn't do the same that I did. And I always think about the effort that they had to make in their own time to express themselves. And so I want to keep on paying homage to all these women that didn't have the same opportunities that I do have today.
Speaking of inspiring creative women, Portugal lost a monumental artist last year when Paula Rego died at 87 years old. Now, her work always engaged with the place of women in society. In 1998, she made that series of abortion paintings when the practice was still illegal in Portugal. What do you think her legacy is today for women, for artists?
Again, Paula Rego was an amazing conscience, an amazing woman, and she spoke about things which are taboo for cultural aspects and for religious aspects, but they are about women's private life, women's history, and she was not afraid to express them and not afraid to talk about them. And her paintings about abortion are amazing. And she made a huge difference in art history and giving women a voice through painting. And she is considered the queen in the art world in Portugal, and she was and she will always be the one and only great painter of this period of time. And the truth is, it's very important that women keep on talking about women issue until we have the same privileges and until we have the same rights. And I'm for human rights. And every time that a woman talks about human rights and talk about, like Paulo Rego did, we keep the line shorter until we have the same rights, and we still don't. So it's very important that all women artists and women all over the world keep on talking about it, because the privilege we have here in Europe are not the same all over the world. So Paulo Rego helped on that, and I hope through my work to do the same.
Now, like Paulo Rego, you also address women's sexuality and bodies in your work. Your piece from 2005, The Bride, is made up of tampons, and that was a bit of a taboo at the time because you were not permitted to show it inside the Chateau of Versailles in 2012 when you had a big exhibition there. How do you think perspectives on the female body, that sort of issue, have changed in that decade? Do you think we're a bit more open now?
I hope we are. I'm not sure if we are more open. When I see the Iran situation, I question myself. I did a piece about the burqa many years ago, and so that was refused also many times in many locations, like The Bride in Versailles. So, and that was 10 years ago, and when I see the news about Iran, I ask myself, have we evolved? And we haven't. So in many ways, it really depends the level of consciousness of every country. And so there's countries that are more conscious about certain issues than others. And evolution is not done, it doesn't evolve in the same way in every country. And so therefore, I hope that, as I told before, I hope that humankind is able to have an equal system for everybody, and that everybody has the same human rights. That's what I aim for, and I want to play my part in it. But I think evolution is happening, and therefore I think we are better than we were 10 years ago. But when I look to other countries, I say, okay, these guys still have a lot to do.
Now, your work has always showcased the incredible craftsmanship or craftswomanship of Portuguese tradition. It's very important to you. But I wonder, at a time of laser cutting instead of hand cutting, of 3D printing, of artificial intelligence, do you think that the laborious handmade crafts are still going to be viable financially, practically in the future?
I think we live in an amazing time for that sense, where technology plays an important role in evolution. And it's very important that technology keeps on evolving because it brings so many things and good things to humanity. At the same time, we have to value tradition and the savoir-faire and the handmade things. So we live in a very bipolar world between crafts and technology. Therefore, I like to value and to show that you can do both. This piece is very crafts, but it's very technological too. Without it, it wouldn't have light. So I put together technology and crafts together, but I emphasize in crafts and not on technology. Normally, crafts are, the boring and poor parents, and technology is the fancy aspect of life. But I say the other way around. Sustainability is not to look far, is to look close. And if you look close into your country, if you look close into your materials that are developed in your country, and if you can even do them in your home with your family, you're reducing your footprint in the world. So that's what I do. I don't look far. I don't go, finding things elsewhere. I use the things that are around me.
In some traditions, the tree of life represents a sort of cosmic connection between all living things.
Yes.
And given the recent pandemic, did you develop a new philosophy, a new knowledge of those links between individuals, communities, societies, artists. What would your philosophy be?
Well, when I arrived here during pandemics, I had the apocalypse in the vitrailles. And I said, oh my God, I end up in a church that has the apocalypse. And that's where it started, the idea of the tree of life, a new beginning, a new connection between everything, between, you know, the spirit, your body, your mind, and how you can interconnect everything, and how we are all interconnected. And through pandemics, we understood that. It was very funny. We had a day in the week, Thursdays, that we would meet together, the studio people, and we opened like a Zoom where we would get together and meet everybody in their own homes. And we thought, oh, let's do this for the studio. And we were all embroidering and knitting, and suddenly there was people from France, Italy, and everybody was joining us. Oh my God, this virtual space is amazing because we can be all together, and that's technology. And that's a very beautiful image of my confinement, which was we were keep on doing the crafts, but we were technologically connected.
Joana Vasconcelos, thank you very much.
Thank you.